Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 2. Today, we will present about Marcet boiler. Before we continue, let's meet our group member. First is me, Azhan. Second, Umar Irfan. And lastly is Afifah. First of all, let's continue with introduction.
Thermodynamics is the study of heat and in relation in other form of work and energy between a system and its surrounding. In this case, a property in the system will change. An ideal gas obey the equation of state that relate the pressure, specific volume or density, and absolute temperature with mass of molecule and the gas constant R. When energy increase within water, the increasing of activities among the molecule enable the increase in the number of molecule escape from the surface until an equilibrium state is reached. The state of equilibrium depends on the pressure between the water surface and steam. This experiment used to measure the temperature of a body when it is being heated or cooled, as well as the relationship between a saturated pressure and water temperature in the range of 0 to 5 bar indicate in the gas.
Next is the objective. The objective for this experiment is to observe the relationship between the pressure and temperature for saturated steam. The scope. First is to determine the number of temperature increase that occur when pressure rise from 0.5 bar to 5.0 bar when the heater is switched on. Lastly, to study the number of temperature decrease when the heater is switched off. Next, let's move on with our working principle.
Thermodynamic properties of a pure substance could be determined by the two of following data: characteristic, temperature, pressure, entropy, specific volume, and enthalpy. Data characteristic could be obtained from either from the experiments or equation or using certain. Among two thermodynamic properties that easily measured are T and P. Relations between these properties could be expressed in the form of graph or equations. Clapeyron equation, one of the published the following: dt over dp set equals d vg minus vf over hf minus hg, where vf is equal to volume of water, vg volume of steam, hf enthalpy of water, hg enthalpy of steam, hfg equals to hf minus hg equal to heat dormant of vaporization. Dormant for the heat value of water can be obtained from the equation.
Okay, let's continue with the experimental setup. First is jug, then heater, drain valve, overflow valve, filler plug, temperature sensor, safety valve, manometer, boiler with insulating jacket, master switch, heater switch, and temperature gauge.
So now I will present about the methodology. First, the filter and overflow valve is open. Second, Marcet boiler was filled with distilled water until the water flowed through the overflow valve. Third, the heater and main switch was turned on. Fourth, the overflow valve is closed when the temperature reaches 97 degrees Celsius. Fifth, the temperature recorded every 0.5 bar, increasing at gauge until reach 5 bar. Next, switch off the heater after the pressure reach 5 bar. Next, record the temperature every 0.5 bar drops until 0 bar. Finally, after the pressure reaches 0 bar, the main switch and main power supply is turned off.
And this is our result for this experiment. This is the table 1. It showed the mean dt, dp and slope dt, dp. Also the slope of tvg over hfg. And this is the table 2, saturated water and steam. And also table 3, which is interpolation of Vg and Hfg based on absolute pressure by using table 2. This is example for calculation of gauge pressure for 0.5 bar and example for calculation of gauge pressure 1 bar. So this is our graph 1 and graph 2, absolute pressure versus steam temperature, increasing the temperature, and absolute pressure versus steam temperature, decreasing temperature. Discussion for this experiment. This experiment is shown that the pressure increase when the temperature increase until 5 bar while heating process. Then, when the cooling process, the pressure decrease as well as temperature decrease from 5 bar until 0 bar. For the graph in this experiment, we can see that graph 1 and graph 2 shown that relationship between absolute pressure and the saturated steam temperature of heating and cooling process. As we can see that graph 1 and graph 2 plotted produce almost to be linear, as well as temperature increase when heating process and temperature decrease when in a cooling process.
Next, I will present about the safety procedure. First, the eye must be perpendicular to the reading of the scale to avoid parallax error. Second, do not touch hot surfaces during the experiment. Third, wear a lab coat and closed shoes when doing any experiments to avoid any accident in lab. And finally, hair in a neat condition for male and non-Muslim students to avoid injury.
So next, conclusion. Conclusion for this experiment. This experiment is shown that the temperature is directly proportional to the pressure. Both graph linearly with pressure and the slopes of the graph slightly different compared to theoretical value. The difference is due to any errors during the experiment, but it can be considered success since the data almost identical to the steam table.
So this is all the reference that we use in this experiment. I think that's all from us. Thank you.